It's all a race against the clock now for your favorite TV shows and series and movies. While the writers' strike continues, the Screen Actors Guild has agreed to the studio's request for federal mediation. But if the union doesn't reach a deal with the major studios and streaming services by tonight at midnight, there could still be a strike.
If both unions struck together and were in solidarity, it would really have an impact on the industry. Without actors or writers, I feel like that would get things moving.
The union also wants protections from artificial intelligence being used to create characters, using actors' voices or likeness. The Screen Actors Guild merged with the American Federation of Radio, TV, and Radio Artists back in 2012. With the writers' union already on strike, an actors' strike would bring most remaining productions to a halt. The last actors' strike was in 1980. To break down the motivations behind the strike action, we're joined now by our media expert, Mohit Rajhans. Mohit, what exactly are the writers and actors fighting for? We know fair wages is part of it, but there is also a tech aspect.
Definitely. Kelly, if you consider the fact that this might be one of the most consequential labor disputes that has ever happened in Hollywood, what we're starting to see is that it's not just about the writers, it's not just about the actors. Instead, it's about an entire industry that's struggling to understand what the model is for success. How do the actors get paid accordingly? How can the writers protect themselves in terms of job security and in the future? At the heart of it, you're hearing a lot of conversation about the fact that actors want their rights protected, about how their material can be replicated in the future and how their material can be cloned and reused. On the writer's side, it's pretty obvious that artificial intelligence is a big disruptor in the industry. But the questions around whether to use artificial intelligence or not aren't really even being spoken about. Right now, to be honest with you, Kelly, they're still trying to come up with definitions of what falls under a tech aspect of something and what is a business side of things.
What happens if both writers and actors are on strike at the same time?
One of the things we have to understand is that Hollywood goes in cycles. And so for producers to actually fulfill content requirements, it goes through certain months where they have to be able to provide that content by. If they're not going to provide their networks with that content, what ends up happening is the advertisers have to go and look for other content. So don't be surprised if what we end up seeing is a slew of reality television in the fall season. We'll also start to see international content being dubbed into English on streaming networks more. And perhaps the next global hit ends up happening as a result. When I mentioned the consequential nature of what's happening with these strikes, there's a ripple effect that we're going to start to see in many different industries that aren't covered yet by just the Writers Guild strike.
While the home base of these strikes is in Hollywood, what does this mean for Canada's film and TV industry?
Well, for one, we need to acknowledge that Canada's film and TV industry is heavily dependent on services. And by servicing Hollywood in particular, there's a lot of great things that happen in this country. Without the scripts, without the actors, without the productions, there may not be as much action, as they say, in these markets. But there is also a lot of other aspects of the Canadian film and television industry, stuff that continues to flourish, and in some cases are backup for things that aren't happening in Hollywood. So we're not necessarily seeing an immediate ripple effect as a result of volume, but we are starting to see the potential for ripple effects. As a result, there's many Canadian writers and we will see solidarity as well. And yes, there is a lot of productions that happen in Canada. So I think we're going to keep a keen eye on it because it will have an effect. But at the same time, it hasn't slowed down yet, particularly this summer. So we'll see what happens and keep it, like I said, it has a ripple effect on multiple industries. I'll also be interested, Kelly, in seeing about how the other unions continue to show solidarity. You're starting to see social media posts where writers are asking for different unions to show their support by posting things and arranging times for discussions. That is another sign that they're not closer yet to be able to solve these problems on their own. I think one of the things the producers are going to have to do very soon is come to the table with two different sides. Obviously, the people within the industry, and then the technology side of the business. How are they going to make sure that they can create those safeguards and future-proof some of the work?
Our viewers can read more of your insights at thinkstart.ca. Thanks so much for joining us, Mohit.
My pleasure, Kelly.